David talked about guts in leadership. I'd call it moral courage. And what I mean by moral courage, of which Lincoln had an immense amount, it is that uncommon capacity to take personal responsibility for hard, sometimes terrifying decisions through consideration of mature and selfless is important, personal principles in interaction with the leadership challenges that you're presented with. And also to be open to letting those principles and values grow with experience. Now, just how uncommon that capacity is starkly indicated by consideration of one of the most shameful incidents in human history. Christopher Browning, in his book Ordinary Men, which is about SS murder squads in Poland, noted that only a relatively small number of those murder squads liked what they were doing. The vast majority detested it intensely, but they were prepared to go along with the routinized murder of women, children, and infants and old people because they felt that they were compelled to do so by group loyalty and a belief in the legitimacy of their orders. Only a very relative few, maybe 10%, refused to participate in massacre. Pre-war politics was no indicator or no predictor of this. German Social Democrats and Communists participated in massacre alongside Christian Democrats and Nazis. And some Nazis, most famously Oskar Schindler or the hero of Nanking, John Raab, were heroic in their rescue efforts during the Second World War. Now, Browning makes the chilling observation that anybody who looks back on that period and says that I would not have done that if I'd been in the same circumstance is saying simply one thing: they don't know what they're talking about. Now, I think there's considerable truth in that, but I don't agree with it entirely. There is an American helicopter pilot by the name of Hugh Thompson, who was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. And one day when he was in operations, he noticed at a village called My Lai that, that American troops were participating in a massacre of the civilian population there. So he interposed his helicopter between a group of Vietnamese civilians and the American troops who had, just as the SS had been doing 25, 30 years before, were in process of massacre. And he told those guys very bluntly, if you take any steps further, myself and my crew will kill you all. And consequently, that moral courage led to him being able to save the lives of 11 civilians. Now, the reason for that, I believe, is before he ever set foot in Vietnam, and during the time that he was there, he consciously thought to himself and reflected upon the idea of what does it mean to be a Christian soldier in such a war? What is acceptable and what is unacceptable? Now, you don't have to be a Christian to have moral courage. And if you are a Christian or of another religion or none, it does not mean you will have moral courage. What you need to do is take ownership of your beliefs and values. Now, given the scarcity of moral courage in situations such as that, in those extreme situations, the most incontrovertibly horrific situations that we have yet managed to inflict on ourselves as human beings, we must be clear that without deliberate reflection upon these issues, upon our own personal beliefs and values, it is less likely a phenomena to emerge in the relatively trivial, leadership challenges that those of us as professional leaders will tend to encounter. Lincoln showed the most profound moral courage in the most dramatic terms in preserving the Union and abolishing slavery. Collins showed it in signing the treaty, something that he knew at the time was probably signing his own death warrant. This is a quality, I believe, more than anything else, that is the most fundamental qualification for leadership. That stark moment of social isolation where you're prepared to raise your voice against the prevailing interests and orthodoxies and assert, irrespective of personal cost, that you think there is another way.